want to call this meeting of the Wendell Town Board in order, in session, and welcome everyone for being here tonight. Chief Bill Carter is going to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Errol Briggerman is going to lead us in our invocation from Covenant Presbyterian Church.
Yes.
Thank you for being here with us
Thank you.
tonight.
Thank you. Let us pray. Lord, we just thank you for this city. Lord, we just thank you for everybody who lives here, and we thank you, Lord, for all the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us. We just pray loud now for our commissioners. Lord, we know they have a lot of decisions to make that is for the betterment of our community. We just ask, Lord, that your guidance is there, and that they will make all the best decisions on behalf of all of us. For all those things we ask in your blessed name, amen.
Amen. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Any motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
The public comment period, we have 2 people signed up. First one, Ms. Catherine Johnson from Interact. Yes, ma'am. Come up here to the podium and tell us your name and all about what you want to discuss with us tonight.
Okay, I have to put this down just a little, sorry. Happy Monday evening, and thank you so much, Mayor Gray and Commissioners. It's an honor and privilege to be here. My name is Catherine Johnson. I am the Associate Executive Director of Interact in Raleigh, which is our county's domestic violence and sexual assault service provider. So one of the things that you may know, we've been in business in Wake County for more than 38 years, and we operate 3 24-hour programs, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We have 3 crisis hotlines that serve our county, and also have a 48-bed emergency shelter for victims of domestic violence and their children. And then the other 24-hour program that we have is our Solace Center, which is North Carolina's very first sexual assault community-based forensic evidence collection center. So while that's a mouthful, basically, prior to us opening that center, a victim of rape or sexual assault would need to go to an emergency room to have the evidence collected for rape. And now that can happen. We have full-time nurses on our staff who can be available around the clock that are specially trained and can do that in our offices rather than hospital emergency rooms. In the last year, Interact served more than 100 clients who were based right here in Wendell. 54 of those were direct victims and their children. And we also served 50 community members through our education, training, and outreach. One of the things that people may not recognize about Wake County is that domestic violence is a pretty serious issue. And you may recall that in 2012, Wake County had the highest domestic violence homicide rate of any county in our entire state. So for several years, we've been working diligently with the community to try to reach people before their lives are lost. And sadly, there were, I guess in 2014, I'm sure you all remember one hit close to home here in Wendell. So what I'm here tonight to ask is a request for support of our organization. We serve the entire county. On average, we are looking at a family of 4. The cost for a family of 4 to stay in our shelter is about $4,800, actually $4,831 to be exact. What we would like to request is support of our organization at the $1,000 range, which if you look at us serving over 100 residents here in Wendell is really just $10 per family. So we're looking forward to hopefully having a partnership as we move forward, and appreciate any support that you all could provide to our organization in the coming year, and appreciate your consideration of that request.
Thank you. Thank you for being here with us tonight. The next is Mr. Robert Wagner. Mr. Wagner? How are you tonight?
I'm doing fabulous. How about
Great.
you?
Fine, thank you.
First of all, thank you for allowing me to come and speak today. I wanted to let you guys know I'm working on I'm a producer and director. I'm actually producing and co-directing a fully funded feature film. And I was talking to our team about location scouting and finding places, and we didn't realize how much Wendell had to offer until we actually came out here and saw how beautiful the place was. From the farmhouse to downtown to some of the corridors and some of the other areas that are here that are beautiful that our team has actually picked to be able to use to film this feature film here, which is going to be starring a local country music star, Jason Michael Carroll. This will be his very first feature film he's going to be in, and he's playing the lead, and also an actress, Kitty Garfield, who was in Carrie, who moved to LA, who's coming back to shoot this film. So just want to let you guys know what we're up to and how beautiful your town is, and appreciate every single one of you.
Thank you. Thank you for picking Wendell.
You're welcome.
Let us know if we can do anything to help you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, item number 3, Wake County Fire Services will provide us with an overview of an agreement between Wake County and the town of Wendell for Wendell Fire Department's provision of fire services within the municipal limits. Mr. Darrell Alford, how are you tonight?
Good. Good evening, Mayor Gray and Town Council. My name is Darrell Alford. I'm Deputy Director with Wake County Fire Services. Wendell Fire Department in a few weeks is getting ready to undertake an inspection by the Department of Insurance. They have these periodically. This directly affects your citizens' insurance policies, whether it's residential or commercial. And part of my job is to help them get through that process, whether it's provide documentations or maps, just help them with any technical thing they need. While we were going through some of their documents, it appeared that the language in the contract or resolution that the town of Wendell did several years ago was kind of fuzzy in whether the town was actually part of that contract. So we had our county legal people look at that, and thus she did the amendment that you see before you. Mm-hmm. So she also encouraged that you have your legal people take a look at it, and if we would like to get that in place if possible before the Department of Insurance comes. I believe Chief Staples, April the 11th. If we don't have it, I mean, he'll give us some time to get through it, but if we do, it's just one less step that we have to go back and work on. Okay. And hopefully, we got our fingers crossed, but the last 3 or 4 ratings that the Department of Insurance has done in Wake County, everybody has lowered their ratings significantly.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? Mr. Alford? All right, well, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Item number 4, Wendell Police Department overview presented by Police Chief Bill Carter.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the board. It gives me great pleasure to come before you this evening and provide you with an overview of your police department and the community's police department. Excuse me. Wendell Police Department is a full-service, 24-hour, 7 days a week, 365 days per year, police agency that provides coverage for all of the town of Wendell. We view our mission as to provide quality law enforcement services by establishing and maintaining our partnerships to ensure the highest quality of life possible for all persons within the community. That is the persons that live, work, and play here. We're certainly seeing a lot more of all 3 of those as days go by, which is a great thing. We accomplish that through community-oriented policing. Now, a lot of people talk about community-oriented policing, but what it boils down to is developing and maintaining strong relationships and partnerships with the citizens that we serve. And we do that through both formal and informal means. We're involved in a lot of community events that we produce or co-produce or are asked to participate in, and then we're also involved in individual events that everyone in the community knows this officer or that officer is a police officer, but sees them without the uniform, sees them participating in community betterment, if you will. We're currently comprised of 17 full-time sworn positions, or full-time positions. 16 of those are sworn positions, and there is one non-sworn administrative specialist who is tasked with running the front desk during the regular business hours, Monday through Friday. There remain 2 unfunded positions that actually were cut as a result of or suspended is a better term, due to the result of economic downturns 2010, 2011. At the time those 2 positions were suspended, the population was estimated to be about 5,886 persons. In the next 4 years, the town has grown at an estimated annual rate of 1.4% increase per year. We haven't seen 2015's numbers yet, which is, I would submit, I think we all realize are probably going to be much higher than that, simply because of the new homes in Wendell Falls, the increased amount of infill growth in existing developments, and the sale of existing inventory of homes that were on the market. To put those numbers in perspective, over that period of time, we've seen our population grow a minimum of 5.7%, while our staffing of sworn police officers, unfortunately, and directly resulting into the economics of the time, have reduced by 12%. Now, you also have to stop and think about, we've also picked up an additional approximately 1,300 acres in the Wendell Falls area that, until Wendell Falls Parkway was open, quite frankly, was a large tract of undeveloped land, not accessible, limited to a few people with maybe motorcycles or ATVs, those types of complaints. Today, we have additional roads through there at about 1.5 miles. We also have additional homes both occupied and in stages of being built. So you get the additional land in it as well as the persons. Our police department has an average of 12.3 years of experience. I might tip that a little higher given how long I've been doing this, but we do have a good band of people on board. And over 2/3 of our staff has some type of degree, from an associate's degree on up. We have 4 with associate's degrees, 5 have bachelor's degrees, and 2 have master's degrees. Some of those folks brought those educational components with them. Others have earned them while they're here. The town has historically maintained a very strong emphasis on educational assistance and improvement of its staff, recognizing that that's an investment that we get back with a better, more complete employee. And some of our officers have taken advantage of the educational assistance program offered by the town. And at this point, at least one that I'm aware of currently is enrolled in additional furtherance of his own education. You know, experience is recognized in a couple of different ways. The North Carolina Criminal Justice Education and Training Standards Commission promotes formal education, job-relevant training, and experience through its professional certificate program. The Criminal Justice Standards Commission, as I like to call it, is actually the licensing body for law enforcement. They're the ones that certify officers through the state of North Carolina. They're also the ones that come in and periodically inspect us to see if we're meeting all the requirements of statute and administrative code. They have the professional certificate program that recognizes education, professional experience, and on-the-job training. 9 officers here in the Wendell Police Department hold the advanced level certificate. That is the highest certificate program available through the state of North Carolina's Criminal Justice Commission. An additional 3 hold an intermediate certificate and are working towards obtaining the advanced certificates. And we'll talk a little bit about our structure, and of course, if you have questions, feel free to stop at any time. We realigned our structuring last year. We completed it. And we set up, so we have 4 working patrol squads. Each one of those squads has a sergeant dedicated to it, and 1 senior officer, and then 1 officer with a little bit less experience. They're set up that way because sometimes a sergeant may need to be on leave, out sick, on vacation, in training, and that gives us at least a senior officer and maybe a younger officer with a little less experience still able to provide coverage to the roads. And then we've set up our investigative division, where we have 1 sergeant and 1 investigator. Both of those carry active caseloads. So when cases come out of patrol and go over in investigations, it could go to either one of them. That caseload is matched up between the 2. And they also are deeply involved in our community outreach programs, working with our schools, working to help if we're asked to appear or speak at some community event. So that's a collateral responsibility that they willingly accept. Let's talk a little bit about our activities for the year. And we're talking only about 2015. 2015, we responded to 6,964 calls for service. And those calls for service are either something that the officers generated through proactive policing or in response to someone calling 911 or the police department or another way making contact with us. Excuse me. They can range from anything from a vehicle unlock to a suspicious person to a traffic stop to even more serious incidents. So it's pretty much a way that we document all of our significant interactions or activities as a law enforcement agency. Now, from those 6,900 plus, you will then generate incident reports. Incident reports are the next level. That's a formal police filing in which there is a potential for an actual crime to have occurred. A break-in of a motor vehicle, shoplifting, a domestic where an arrest is made. All of those things would be examples of generated incident reports. In the year, we generated 382 incident reports from those calls for service. I think one of the things to keep in mind here is whether it's a call for service or whether it's a incident, the amount of time spent can vary greatly. I'll speak back to the bank robbery we had just a few weeks ago. The number of hours expended by officers on that for literally 2 weeks nonstop, that's all the investigators did. You may go do an unlock of a car and it's a 5-minute task. So there are varying amounts of times and varying amounts of resource commitments that occur. Now, in addition to those activities, the police department issued 1,037 citations. A citation is exactly that, it's a ticket. And we use citations for either traffic violations, the minor, less serious traffic violations, the more serious traffic violations, or less serious criminal events and offenses which don't give rise to actually having to place someone in the car and carry them before a magistrate. They're issued a citation, the court date is set, and then they appear. So there were 1,037 of those issued in 2015. Then there were 190 persons arrested. Now, for us, arrests can be because of cases we initiate, but they also can be because of a warrant taken out somewhere in the city of Raleigh or in some other county, and that person now just happens to live, work here, or we happen to stop a car. And they're in there and we find out there's an outstanding warrant. And then, of course, the other piece of what we typically see is our motor vehicle collisions, and in 2015 we handled 111 of those. Our training and education, we talked about professional certificates and the formal education our officers have, but it's even beyond that. All police officers have to go through a state-mandated basic law enforcement training program. That's currently about 36 separate blocks of instruction, including topics such as firearms, defensive tactics, driving, motor vehicle law, arrest, search, and seizure. And the way it's now written, in every block, there's an opportunity to insert some ethics-based training relevant to that particular performance. It takes about 620 hours to complete that. That's probably about twice as long as it took when I went through it many, many years ago. Then after they finish that 620-hour block of instruction, they have to then go to a separate location and sit for a state comprehensive written exam that is maintained and produced and graded by the Criminal Justice Education Training and Standards Commission. So all of that's done there. Well, if an officer comes to us right out of basic law enforcement training, then we're going to put him or her through about a 90-day field training program. And that field training program is to learn our policies, learn our streets, learn our ways of doing business, learn the computer systems that we use, because those are things that aren't taught in that state-level course. Those things are higher level that apply to all agencies. Then we bring them in and begin our training. Our training is done with both, I like to say, we tell you how to do something, we show you how to do it, and then we let you do it. And you have to demonstrate proficiencies. There's an entire comprehensive book with all the components that we're looking for, and we take those people through that. If we hire someone with 4 or 5 years experience, and maybe somebody's coming to us with similar computer access, it very likely and often does shorten down a little bit that time. But we kind of figure in the process about 90 days is what it takes to get the training done. Excuse me. And then all officers, once they're here, are required to complete annual in-service. That is mandated by the Criminal Justice Education Training and Standards Commission. We have a combination of mandated courses that we have to take, and we can have what they call, I call it electives. They'll give us 5 or 6 options of very timely and relevant things, and we can choose from that list. We do have to complete a total of 24 hours a year in those topics, with the mandatory ones being legal update, firearms training, which includes our qualification, juvenile minority sensitivity training, and then the topics, as I said, that are more elective in nature. And this is an all or nothing. If you don't complete those courses and pass the test, each one requires a written test. The firearms one, of course, both a written test and a weapons proficiency test. That officer's certification is either suspended or revoked. So that's that, and that's a very, very direct and clear order that comes from training and standards. In 2015, one of the things that we also did, in working closely with Manager Piner and Butch K in finance, we worked to bring forward a new career development program. There had been one in the past that laid out certain steps, and you would accomplish those steps over time with training. It was tied pretty closely to the professional certificate program, which wasn't maybe the smoothest and clearest way. So what we did with our career development program was we redesigned it, and the way we did it, we had a training committee come together and look at what does a brand new officer need, what does a 3-year officer need, come together and make recommendations at each stage in their career as to what courses they need and what they would want to develop further as advancement, as a means of advancement. Early on, what you're going to see is we're really, really structured. We're saying you're going to take these 3 or 4 courses in your first 2 years after you start work here at the Wendell Police Department. You take your next step, we may tell you there's 2 courses, but then you can choose 2 electives totaling 40 hours. I'm just using that as an example. And you have the ability to kind of go into areas that you are interested in. And that's all the way through. The career development program that we put in place actually has 4 levels of officers. It has a police officer 1, police officer 2, senior officer, and master officer. You can reach the top of that, I believe, in about 8 to 9 years if everything goes. And training and performance. It's all based on job performance as well. It's all done that way. Excuse me. You know, I previously talked a little bit about community involvement, and it is essential for providing good police services. Police department, and it started before I came here, and we've been able to continue to do them, has several annual events that we have started and been able to maintain through strong partnerships over the last few years. In May of 2015, the police department held its 7th annual Public Safety Day. And that's held downtown on the first Saturday in May, and allows people to come out and interact with the police department and other local responders. I know when Alton spoke to you all, he actually spoke about Public Works is going to be a part of that this year for the first time. We're really excited to have them because they are a first responder, especially in whether it's snowing or whether we have limbs down or whatever. We call and they're there, and we're forever grateful about that. So, you know, we're looking at, we will serve 500 hot dogs. We will have games, impaired driving simulations, informational booths from EMS. The fire department's always a great partner and comes and participates with us. And it's just a really fun day. So mark your calendars and come join us. We love to do it. And then in August 2015, we held our 6th annual Camp Choices. It is and continues to be funded by grant from the Wake County Alcoholic Board of Control, the ABC Board. And in that, of course, campers 9 to 12 are able to spend a week engaged in sporting activities, team building exercises, and programs that are designed to help them understand the importance of making good choices in all aspects of their lives. And of course, it focuses on drug and alcohol abuse, the consequences and internet safety, and other items that are relevant to that age group. We bring in outside professionals from the Poe Health Center that provide lectures. Some of our officers do things. But it's a great partnership and a lot of fun to spend a week with those kids And many of those kids have now returned and are counselors with our camp. And that's a mark of success. I mean, I had a parent call me 2 weeks ago saying, can I go ahead and get my kid in as a counselor? Well, we have a start date, and to be fair to everybody, this is the start date, but call us back, and we'll be waiting on your application. Excuse me. Yeah, and then in addition to those formal things, I mentioned earlier informal activities. We really encourage our officers to be a part of the community. We have several officers. If you go by the Rams football, you're going to see Jody Wall and Leeward Hanks over there coaching football. But in addition to that, some of our folks do things as simple as using their own personal equipment to clear driveways for the elderly in the snow and ice. And attending elementary festivals just because I need somebody to go, and they say, hey, I want to go. I've got really cool pictures with kids sitting in the front seat of police cars, so it's just where you'd like to see them. Last year, we documented over 600 hours of that kind of volunteer time within the police department. And that doesn't count the things that we may have a church ask for someone to speak or come up here, and we do those things as part of our regular assignments. So that's a minimum of what I consider true volunteer hours. Now let's talk about some other things with the economic climate and the freezing of those two positions that we mentioned earlier. As our population grows and continues to grow, I believe, and I'm confident, at a higher rate each year, the annual growth is going to continue to expand. We're going to find ourselves needing to look at a way to grow the police department to stay up with that population. To give you all an idea, the concept of if you fund one police officer beginning July 1st for a full year, and you have to buy the equipment and you have to buy the vehicles and go through all the steps, it's a good round estimate, and Butch and I have spoken about this a couple of times, somewhere between $100,000 to $110,000. And that's your startup cost, if you will. And then it's also important to note that it takes about 6 months to fill a position from the time we actually post it, because we post it, we screen the applications, we do the interviews, we do the background investigation, we have post-conditional offer things like medicals and psychologicals that have to be done, and then we have to send it to Training and Standards Commission, who processes the application, and we cannot hire and certify until they have given it back and said, this person's good to go in our books. So it's a good rule of thumb to use 6 months. Now, of course, another thing that hit us was the delay in a vehicle replacement strategy. It's very challenging to deal with vehicles. In 2009, the police department went to a assigned vehicle fleet as opposed to officers, what we call hot seating a car, which means it could stay on the road literally 24 hours a day at the time, and you find very quickly that there is a cost savings in doing that, both in terms of maintenance, in terms of resale value. So we went to that rate. But again, with the last few years of the economy, we were able to purchase, I believe, 2 cars 2011 and 2 cars 2012, and had not purchased anything until last year. Last year, the manager presented a proposal, and we spoke with the board, and the board was gracious enough to allow us to replace 5 vehicles. Those vehicles are sitting ready to go, and the only exception is when one officer gets back to work Wednesday, he will be in his, and then all 5 will be operational. 2 of them are assigned to the captain and I, and those vehicles that we had were being either sold or relocated for other needs here within the town, because they are, quite frankly, a little bit more suitable than an old marked police car. And then the other 3 are, assigned to patrol. We bought 3 sedans and 2 utility platforms. The costs are very, very close in doing that. And equally important, all 5 of those vehicles are, in fact, all-wheel drive. So we went from a fleet that had 1 all-wheel or 4-wheel drive vehicles to 6, which, get out and ride around in the snow and ice, is a pretty significant help. And again, we look at it like this: the typical life cycle on these cars should be somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 years or 70,000 miles. We have some additional 2009s. I spent half of my day juggling vehicle maintenance issues that occurred over the weekend, getting things repaired. It's just an inevitable part of when you drive them in a small town at lower speeds. it's more of an issue. And what's the estimated cost of replacing these vehicles is somewhere in the neighborhood of about $45,000. And that's not just the car. That's all the equipment. That's the radio. That's the radar units. That's the in-car cameras, which we'll talk about. So that's what I consider a turnkey police vehicle, somewhere in that neighborhood. Some good things we've been able to do in the last few years at little or no cost is we were able to get a grant through the Governor's Crime Commission to purchase tasers. The tasers that we carried had a life cycle of about 5 years. And the taser manufacturer says it's time to replace them for reliability, technological advances, and so forth. So we applied for a grant 2014, and in February of 2015, we were able to deploy new tasers to all officers and train them. So all 16 of us have a taser, and we carry it. Some of you that have seen here before will remember the conversation. In order to carry the taser, you have to be exposed to the taser. So didn't have that on my bucket list to start with, but I can say I checked it off. That project was about 19.
Chief.
Yes, ma'am.
Y'all really got tasered?
Yes, ma'am.
Well,
Absolutely.
good for you.
I will
don't
never
really know what
ask.
else to say.
I will never ask my folks to do anything that I won't do. That's my philosophy, and that's been the department's policy. Different departments handle it different ways. You know, there were a number of people with cameras, phones rolling when I got mine, and I said, "Y'all can
Can I
take it
see
back." Go. I will share. I will take it back, and I will be glad to let you view it, but I don't want to see it just anywhere and everywhere with a lot of editorial comments.
I understand.
But it was interesting. You know, it was a $19,000 project that year there was a 25% match from the town. So it actually only cost the town about $4,700 to accomplish that. And we were able to identify those funds internally through the sales of surplus properties or some other good fortunes within the budget that year. 2015, we went back to the Governor's Crime Commission again, seeking a grant. This year, there was no cost, no match grant. And we were able to obtain 2 additional in-car cameras, a storage device to store the data from all of our in-car cameras, as well as a mobile pole-mounted radar sign that we are continuing to learn and explore its capabilities every day. So that was, again, about a $15,000 project that cost the town no matching funds, came all directly from the state block grant. Yeah, I think it's fair to say that before I got here, the police department had recognized the needs for in-car cameras. We've seen a lot of things in the last few years about body cameras, but in-car cameras have been around for a long time. And we have been very fortunate over the last year through the purchase of new vehicles, which we included through the grants we've gotten through Governor's Crime Commission as well as the Governor's Highway Safety Program. We have now gone from 4 in-car cameras to 9. And with a continuing replacement strategy on vehicles, I would envision that will be able to be 100% for the marked patrol cars within the next 2, maybe 3 years, would be what I'm thinking at this point. Then I know you've seen some of them. Again, with these cars getting out on the road, you're going to see a lot more of it. You know, in 2015, we had 2 vehicles involved in collisions that resulted in significant repairs, as well as the ones we bought. So we took that as an opportunity to mark the police cars and, in effect, brand them with the town's new logo. We've seen the Chargers. The Fords are now on the street. In fact, one of them's out tonight. And, you know, if you think about it, we were able to use very close to the original colors of the town's logo, and we actually incorporated the logo in the word Wendell on the police cars. And, you know, a lot of people would argue that from a mobile platform, and we've all seen these sign trucks riding around Raleigh, well, that's police cars are probably one of the most visible mobile assets that any community has. So we were able to put this together and get it on the road, and have gotten a lot of positive comments about the appearance of this vehicle versus the other. Another thing we did that most of you probably will realize is a change in the uniform. We started looking at uniforms in 2015 and actually late 2014 and completed the transition in October 2015. The old blue uniform, we were having a problem. Quite frankly, we would order blue, same manufacturer, same color, and it would be this color blue this time, that color blue the next. It's not an inherently static color from the dye lots, apparently. And then there was an issue of reduction of quality of those uniforms over time, as well as citizens, as well as the officers, looking for something that was a little bit more professional. You go to Raleigh, you get confused with Raleigh PD, and you really couldn't give anybody directions if you were in Raleigh wearing that uniform, because all they saw was the blue shirt. So again, I'm a big believer in inclusion. We created an in-house committee, and I gave them some very broad marching orders to look at the issue of uniforms. I wanted something that was durable. I wanted something that was reliable. I wanted something that promoted officer safety, and that presented a professional appearance. And the uniform that I'm wearing tonight was the result of that transition. So we think it's obviously, it promotes a professional image, it's more durable and reliable, and so it met all those qualifications that they were given at the start. Now, where are we going in the future? What are things challenging us beyond our growth and our personnel? Our handguns, our weapons are more than 10 years old, many close to 15 years old. What the manufacturers will tell you is that weapons do have a life cycle. At that point in time, you either need to go through them and rework all the springs and re-inspect internal parts, replacing night sights, illuminated night sights, or replace them. And I can speak from experience, having gone through this a couple of times in my previous career. You find that it is typically almost as cheap, and you get a better return on the value to actually acquire new guns and trade in what you have. So we've had our first meeting of our weapons committee. That group has been given some marching orders to research what we need to do, what level we need to go to, and then they will come back to me with their findings. And once they do in their recommendations, then we'll listen to it. And if it's something that's plausible and realistic, we would go forward with an attempt to replace our duty weapons. It would be my hope, based on trends in grants, that we would be able to accomplish that through the use of grant funding, as well as inherent trade-in value on these weapons at little or no cost to the town. And typically that's been the case in my experience in dealing with this, obviously at the state level. Then the other thing that's coming up is the public safety radios. The current radios, the model radios that we have right now, both in our cars and the portables we carry, are no longer going to be supported, repaired, or guaranteed parts availability by the manufacturer. The 5 new vehicles we just bought, all 5 of those do have the latest generation radios in them. But there are a lot more radios out there, both portables and mobiles or car mounted, that will need to be replaced. The life cycle is going to begin in 2018, 2019. And the cost right now, just a very broad estimate from Motorola, is the replacement of all the existing radios would run somewhere in the neighborhood of $188,000. Now, keeping in mind, if we're able to continue with a vehicle replacement, every year we do a vehicle is going to be at least one less mobile radio that we would have to factor into that highest figure, that $188,000. And then the other thing is facilities. We're currently in leased space at 9 South Pine Street. We are 3.5 years into that lease, and we have the ability to enter into, or at least seek the ability to enter into an additional 5-year lease. So we're getting close in terms of this first lease, and looking forward, we're going to have to think about that, because it can't be dealt with overnight when you start relocating evidence facilities and security facilities like we have. Right now, that building is meeting needs. But as we grow, and as more personnel come on, and as we get busier, it's going to inherently, just exactly like the space here when the police department used it, it's going to become cramped and less efficient. And of course, in addition to looking long-term for a fixed site for the police department, there is still the conversation, I know we briefly discussed it at the retreat, about a satellite facility located at Wendell Falls, which, continues to be something, I guess, in the very early planning stages. And then I think it's important to mention earlier, I talked about 600 plus hours of volunteer time. Let's put a little human touch on a couple of things in our police department. Our folks are involved in the community both on and off the job. In 2015, Sergeant Jamie Gill and Officer Justin Loy were awarded life-saving awards for reviving a man that had suffered a heart attack and was no longer breathing when they arrived at his residence one morning. As a result of their efforts and subsequent arrival of more trained medical professionals, that person did make a full recovery. And then also in 2015, Sergeant Steve Hall was awarded the town's Employee of the Year after being nominated by other employees as a reflection on his hard work, dedication to the town, and community involvement. I consider it every day to be a privilege to work with the folks in that police department. We have a good team. We have a team that I think is ready to grow. We always talk about we're raising the bar. There are going to be challenges, but that's okay. Those make us wiser. Those make us smarter. I appreciate the support that the board has extended to us, Manager Piner, and the staff, and the community as a whole. I moved here as an outsider. Even though I wasn't far down the road, I think someone told us I was 13 miles down the road, but
That's not enough.
you know, I also grew up in two neighborhoods that fought over one another, so I get that. But it is truly a privilege to serve this community, and I speak on behalf of the officers, and everyone else feels the same way.
Well, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Chief?
I do. Just one question. Could you please remind everybody what day Community Day is?
Public Safety Day?
Yeah, Public Safety Day.
Public Safety
sorry.
Day will be the first Saturday in May.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's the 7th this year. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it's the 7th. Could I get you to talk real quickly about the mileage on cars and replacement of it depending on mileage? I know it comes up every year. We talk about it all the time, and I was told recently that the State Highway Patrol had upped them out. I think you mentioned 70, and I believe I heard 100 maybe, and I think I know the answer, but maybe the difference between a highway patrol car and a police car in a town. I get asked about this a lot.
Sure, and I think you've hit, at the highest level, you've hit the nail on the head. When you're patrolling the interstate, or you're patrolling Wake County, driving from one side to the other, Sheriff's Department would be another great example.
Right.
They're driving at more varied speeds. They're driving greater distances. If you're the late night trooper by yourself here, and you're on the south side at Fuquay, and you get a wreck in Wake Forest,
Right.
yeah. So you have those issues. Vehicles in municipal law enforcement, probably, I've seen some studies, they idle as much as 50% of the time because the officers are in there writing reports, they're having to run their computers and keep everything functional in the car. I've heard people use a figure of whatever your mileage is for a local municipal police department, take it and at least double it to kind of give you an idea of the condition the vehicles are in. And I think that shows. We've had an experience this year with a lot of problems with suspension packages on vehicles going out, and that's, we've had transmission issues. We've had top of engines. So it's more about the type of driving, because these cars, for the most part, are driven at very low speeds in town for extended periods of time.
Okay.
And that answer?
It does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to thank you, too, for everything that y'all do for us here. I know people say things like that, but I'm real sincere, and I mean it. I really do. I know that I've personally challenged all the departments to up our game a little bit, and y'all were already meeting that challenge, and I really appreciate it. I love when I ride around and I see you out in the community, and I see the officers out and about in the cars, and it makes me real proud, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
All right, item number 5, discussion and action on the proposed Todd Street storm drainage project. Ms. Piner.
Madam Mayor, one of the things, I just want to follow up with the chief. Again, they've done a great job of what they've done. These are some of the things that we've talked about, having different departments come out at the work sessions.
Yes,
I think the IT department is our last one, and she'll be coming and giving a report in April. And also, we were talking a little bit, Chief mentioned the EMS facility. We're looking at the Parkway. Mr. Capasano and Alford, we're looking at doing a pre-planning meeting sometime in April. So
Okay.
we're going to kind of get started on some of those
Good.
things. So we're excited. I also was thinking about for your pedestrian survey, that for those 500 hot dogs, if they're free, but if we did an exchange of a survey for a hot dog, that would be
I'm
500.
sure that'll make Allison real happy.
So we could take a look at that.
We're not responsible for the chili on it.
Little stained. That might work. But item number 5, we did want to discuss the Todd Street Storm Drainage Project. This is in follow-up to the plans that we have for 2016 with the street improvements, paving, and Todd Storm Drainage. If you go by Todd Street, you're going to look at it and go, why? It is the storm drainage system, the 24-inch concrete RCP underneath the roadway, what I'd call on the west side, on the far side, that has totally collapsed. So you can't see anything. It's all underground. But what's going to happen if it's not replaced, then we're going to start having issues with undermining of the roads. It's going to be rather extensive because we are going to have to take up sidewalk. We're going to have to move some utility poles. It should all be within the right of way. And we don't anticipate having to get any easements for that. But we did go out to bid on March 17th. We did have 2 bidders, as you will see, Lanier Construction and Aaron Contracting. Came back the base bid, you'll see, was Lanier at $163,637.50. This was something that, we'll roll over into the street improvements that we have. We're wanting to start with this right away. And we hope that it'll be better for everybody as we continue with these street and drainage improvements. So we would ask the board to receive the bid tab summary that you have attached and approve the award. Again, we will be taking this as we did the last time. It will be contingent upon funding from the LGC or their authorization of funding, and we would like to move forward.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Piner?
I do.
Okay.
You said this was in the right of way. This is all underneath of Todd Street,
It is.
so Todd Street will have to be removed.
It's going to be the area back a curb. There is an area that has some sidewalk, and so it'll be all back underneath there between the curb and the homes.
So it won't affect, it's not affecting the pavement. They're not having to tear up the pavement.
If we go into the pavement, it may be like a foot, but it won't be like we're having to tear up the street. It's really on the side,
Okay.
more underneath the sidewalk. The problem is going to come that we're having to lay that back. And so that's probably where really we're going to end up having to cause problems in the street because we're going to have to lay back that ditch to get in there, take out the pipe and replace it.
This is included in the item number 6, the financing. of that.
Yes, it is. Immediately following this, Butch is going to come up with items 6 and 7. We'll have a public hearing and action, and this number will be rolled over and included, as you will see in there, as what we take to the LGC.
Does anyone else have any questions for Ms. Piner? Do I have a motion to authorize the manager to enter into a contract with Lanier Construction Company?
I'll make a motion to approve the award of the Todd Street Drainage Project to Lanier Construction and to authorize the town manager to enter into contract with Lanier Construction.
Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Number 6, public hearing and action to accept bank loan proposal from KS Bank for various street and drainage improvements contingent upon local government commission approval. Mr. Kay.
Madam Mayor, members of the board, Mayor, would you like to do the public hearing part of it first, see if there's anybody that needs to speak about that?
Yeah, we can. Okay, that's out of order. I've got my little thing written out. All right. I'm gonna open the public hearing. Would anybody like to speak for or against? Okay, seeing none. Public hearing now closed. There you go.
Madam Mayor, in the agenda packet that you have is the bid tabs that we received from the bank proposals that we got on March the 17th. We're recommending that KS Bank be awarded the contract, which we're asking to approve in item number 7. But for number 6, we're just asking for the board to approve the bid results.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Kay?
Are you just asking for approval of the bid results? That's it?
Yes, sir, for number 6, yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve the bid results from item 6.
All right. A motion to approve the bid results. Is there any discussion on the motion?
We could just clarify, that was a bid result, not results.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, my Lord.
Results,
I'm usually the
singular.
grammar person. Good job.
Busted.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
And Madam Mayor, members of the board, we ask that the board enter into or approve a resolution to do the financing now with KS Bank as part of item number 7.
All right, item number 7. Does anyone have any questions about the resolution? Can I get a motion to adopt the resolution for financing?
Motion to adopt the resolution for financing with KS Bank.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Mr.
On the
Boyd?
motion to accept this, it says for up to $1.5 million, but that doesn't mean that we're gonna be using all of that.
No,
That's correct.
Correct,
Only the amount
right.
on the amount used, that's
for the
right.
bid. Okay.
Thank you.
Did you make a motion already?
I
A
did.
motion, okay.
Yeah.
All in favor of the motion, approve the financing, approve the resolution for financing?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, we will be completing the paperwork and preparing draft minutes and submitting this to the LGC. One of the things that, again, the state of North Carolina, we feel very good about is that we have another party that's going to actually be looking at these numbers, that's going to make sure that we've asked for the right amounts, and that will be authorizing us to be able to move forward and seek these loans. So we feel good about having that other party assisting us through that process.
All right, item number 8, report on Campo from me. I attended the Campo Executive Board Campo meeting a couple of weeks ago, March 16th. For those that don't know, it stands for Capital Area Municipal Planning Organization. They meet once a month. This particular meeting was mostly informational. We received a lot of information on the Raleigh-Cary rail crossing study, a report on prioritization methodology, how they're going to go through and plan who gets what when and what makes your project more important. You may need funds more than someone else. It's interesting, so hopefully we can, when our turn comes along, we can fall up high in that list. We also discussed the public participation plan update, the Wake County Transit Investment Strategy, the budget, and there were just various project updates on several projects that are going on around Wake County. So that was all for that. The next item is number 9. That's Commissioner Lutz, report on the Triangle J Board of Delegates meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. Mine too was very informationally laden. We heard some discussion from 2 people regarding the legislative session. This was last Wednesday, so this is right at the end of that, or getting close to the end of that session. We had a report on changes to the foreign trade zone and just updates on our next meeting in May, where they'll begin to present some of the early budgets for the year. That was all.
Thank you. All right, the next item is the commissioners' comments. We'll start with Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to thank Robert Wagner for being here tonight. That's exciting news. We appreciate that. I think that this ties in directly to what he saw in our community with people being involved. Wanted to congratulate Paul White on his donation today with the new auto dealers to the Wake Tech engine. I think members of our community being involved in outreach like that is what attracts people to want to do business here. So I thought that was very good. And then just wanted to speak to, and more for the record, for Chief Staples, that I believe it is our intent on April 11th to handle item number 3 from tonight. Once our council looks at that, that's the agreement update with the Fire Commission, just so that we
he has in writing somewhere that it is most likely our intention to
Yeah.
pass that as they're going through their ISO process.
Thank you. Commissioner Boyette?
The manager mentioned the local government commission providing some oversight for the loan. And, I think it always gives local government a warm fuzzy feeling to know that the state's looking out for small towns' best interests. It bothers me to see control taken away from local government and handled at the state level, things that, whether you agree with them or not, probably shouldn't be handled at the state level. And I'm not going to get on a high horse tonight, but a lot of our state legislators started out in local government, and I wonder how much their opinions and why their opinions have changed so much so recently, because when you talk to them, most of them say they think control should be at the local level. And sometimes I'm just at a loss as to why they don't act that way sometimes.
Commissioner Myrick?
No comment.
Commissioner Lutz?
I just want to announce of an upcoming date, April the 9th here in Wendell. There'll be a first annual Wendell Health Day. It's a Saturday morning from 9 to 12. It is being put on by the Wendell Rotary Club and is being held in the Knott Square Shopping Center. We're going to have several healthcare practitioners and from around the town. They're providing screenings of different varieties. And so we're hoping this will continue to be an annual event that will grow each year. So that was April the 9th from 9 till 12 in the morning. That's all.
Commissioner Carroll?
No comment.
All right, well, for my comments, in addition to the Campo meeting, I attended a social media class here conducted by the North Carolina Department of Archives. Again, we're trying to up our game, and that was we're getting ready to have a part 2. I think I was told it was going to be called Twitter 101. So we're really shaking the dust off around here. I also attended the Wendell Middle School Book Fair. I was invited to participate there and speak to the students and their parents and participate in some activities. And they had a game there. It was called Beat the Mayor, which was fun. So I did that, and I appreciate the invitation to that. I attended the Arbor Day ceremony here at Wendell Community Park. Commissioner Myrick was there with his daughter. Those are always nice days, always fun things to attend. It's nice to get outside. I really appreciate how hard Philip Smith works for the town, and also the tree board, how much work they put into those events. Those things don't just happen. It seems like a thing that goes by kind of quickly, but a lot of planning and preparation takes place for them, and I appreciate that. I attended the March mayor's meeting in Raleigh with all the other mayors in Wake County. It's always interesting to get with that group and just listen to the things that are happening in other towns. And interestingly, they're all real interested in what's going on in Wendell all of a sudden, so that's nice. I attended the Economic Development Committee meeting here last week. There were 2 speakers. The Greater Raleigh Convention and Visitors Bureau and a lady from Workforce Development was here. The Convention and Visitors Bureau folks were talking, or the gentleman was talking about promotions and suggested ways that we can promote Wendell and again, get Wendell on the map. And it was very interesting to hear his perspective. We all think we know how is best to do that, but it's nice to hear that from someone else sometimes. And he did have some interesting and different ideas, things we hadn't considered. The workforce development aspect of it was very interesting too, because it's important for industrial development in a community to have a prepared workforce that can work in these places. And this may be something that takes longer to happen, but I think we can do that if it's something that we plan for more. And I'm going to take some of that information with me the next time I meet with some of the school board folks, and maybe we can be working towards that. I attended the community Easter egg hunt at the Wendell Community Park. And I want to thank the Passage Church for putting that on. It's always a really nice event for the town of Wendell. It's really cute. All the little kids were running around having a good time. It's always nice to have feel-good things go on in town, and I appreciate the Passage Church for doing that. Real quickly, I want to remind you about the rescheduled ProTown BMX events this Saturday. The shows are at 12 and 3. was very popular last year. Bring your kids and come on down. And I also want to mention real quickly, and Ms. Piner touched on it, I don't know if anyone has noticed, but we've been going through department by department and doing overviews of what different departments do, what they need, how they operate, and it's informational for the board and for the citizens, and we're going to continue to do this on a rotating basis for those, and I'd like to also add our citizen boards as well, so we can kind of know what they're doing, what they've been talking about lately. And honestly, I'd like the board members to do that, not their staff person. I think it's important for them to come and tell us what they're doing and why. So we're going to be doing that. I hope that y'all are enjoying that. It's nice to hear what's happening, how your tax money's being spent. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned. No, I don't know anything about, oh, yes.
Yeah, okay.
She didn't ever firm up to me, it was Wednesday. She was waiting to hear from you.
I'm doing good, good to see you.
Hey. Yeah, go ahead. That's fine.